I'm at the location of a very large reservoir. It's known as Lake Scranton. This provides drinking water for the city of Scranton. And the great thing about this place is there's a paved walking trail that forms a 3.5-mile loop around the entire lake. And it makes an ideal spot for taking a walk, run, or just getting some fresh air. I wanted to come here today and do a little walk and talk because today, December 14th, marks my 1-year anniversary since I was discharged from the hospital from having COVID last year. I want to share with you what's taken place since that time, both good and not so good. At the same time, give you some views of this beautiful area. So I invite you to come along with me as we do a little walk and talk here at Lake Scranton. As you can tell, we've had a fresh snowfall here just a few days ago, which makes the landscape look absolutely gorgeous. It's really breathtaking. On top of that, it is a chilly morning. It's around 25 degrees. As long as I stay moving, I feel okay. If I stop and stand still, it does get a bit chilly. It's about a 7 to 8 mile per hour breeze, but at least we got clear sunny skies, and it's a good day to be out and talk with you guys. So just to kind of bring you up to speed, last year, 2021, November, right around Thanksgiving time last year is when I started getting symptoms for COVID. Started having a fever, a cough, shortness of breath, all the telltale signs, except never lost my taste or smell. December 3rd, I was admitted to the hospital, taken there by ambulance because I couldn't really do anything anymore. I couldn't walk, I couldn't move, I couldn't do anything except sit still and just try to keep my breath going. And spent almost 2 weeks in the hospital. Discharged on the 14th. I was sent home with oxygen equipment, both a portable one and a base one at home, and had to do numerous follow-ups with my doctors. So since all that time, a lot of things have taken place, and I'm going to try to not so much go in order, but kind of break up into little groups, little bits and pieces. And we are going by a roadway here, which is noisy. Once we get past that, it will quiet down a bit. So the one thing I did talk about once I was home and back to a mostly normal life is that my heart rate started giving me some issues where at rest it would jump to well over 100 for no reason. I'd just be sitting on the couch watching TV and I could feel it, and it would just be 105, 110, 115, sometimes up into the 120s for no reason at all. And that would happen 3-4 times a week. And it was unsettling because I don't like that feeling. It feels like a jittery feeling. I could instantly tell when it was happening. It just became very evident that my heart rate was racing. And sometimes it would last anywhere from a half an hour to a few hours. And that would go on for, like I said, multiple times a week. And the way I would know is because I've been checking my finger with my pulse oximeter. And it would just confirm my suspicions that yes, my heart rate is racing. So I did contact my doctor about it. It was seen and got blood work done, some testing, and they just basically contributed to long-term COVID. There's no explanation except my body is just reacting to what it went through fighting off COVID and with the respiratory issues and everything. So there's not really anything they could do for it, just to monitor it. So that's what I've been doing ever since. So the heart rate was one of the first things that developed, the heart rate issue. After that, probably middle of April to beginning of May, when the temperatures started getting warmer, and I started getting outside doing some household activities. It's like, cutting grass, yard work, just everyday normal things I've done my entire life. Well, after the first day or two of actually doing that type of stuff, I was hit with some severe fatigue issues where after like an hour, I could barely do anything. I was barely even able to stand up on my own. Just really depleted of all my energy and strength. And it was really frightening. I didn't know what was going on, what was causing it, or why it was happening. And it got to a point that was so bad sometimes where, like, if I was bending down to, say, put gas in the lawnmower or pick something up after doing physical activity for like an hour, and I stood up, I'd become really lightheaded to the point I was almost going to pass out and fall over. That's how bad it was. And there was a couple of times where I just had to stop what I was doing and sit for about 30 minutes just to kind of get some type of energy or strength back. And when those days happened, it would take sometimes up to a full 24 hours for my body to recover, to recuperate. I'd have to go home and basically just rest. I had no strength, no energy to do anything. Didn't lose my breathing ability, just my strength and energy. And I just felt like I had zero control to do anything. And I was even scared to drive because I wasn't 100% and I didn't know what was happening at the moment. Closer shot of the lake here, looking across. Very calm and peaceful right now. And here's the walkway ahead of us. And we got some falling snow falling from the trees with that breeze that we have. And there's looks like some crows flying around, or some blackbirds. So when that started happening with the fatigue issues, I instantly contacted my doctor, got seen, and had testing done, multiple lab works done, blood work. They tested everything from testosterone levels to see if I even had Lyme disease, because that is some symptoms of that as well. And all the labs came back normal, nothing showing anything wrong. And basically my doctor again contributed to long-term COVID symptoms and just my body not used to doing those types of things after it was fighting for its life just months earlier. So I was basically forced to set a boundary, a physical boundary for myself, not to push or exceed past my limits. Even though it was normal everyday activities for me, I now had to alter what I was doing and how long I was doing it, because I didn't want to keep putting myself in that predicament where I was depleted of energy and strength and had to take a full day to recover. So anything I had to do, I either did with multiple breaks in between or did it for a much shorter time, and that allowed me not to reach that limit of exhaustion or fatigue. So that was basically the new norm for me going through the summer, of just basically taking it more easier and not putting myself in a vulnerable position physically. And as the summer went on, I did at certain times push beyond that boundary, either because I was forced to in that particular moment, or I wanted to see how my body would react. And the good news is, as the summer went on, as the months went on, I was being able to do a bit more than I was earlier. Not to say I was 100% out of the water, out of the woods. I think it's out of the woods. I just was able to at least show some progress and have things go in a positive direction. So come end of summer, doing another follow-up with my doctor, another round of lab works to see if everything's still okay, he basically gave me two options. He said there is a special facility or center that specializes in long-term COVID, and they could do further testing more than what my primary care physician is capable of doing or is aware of or knows about or qualified to do. He said, I could get you sent over there and we could just do further treatment, further testing, further analysis to see what's going on. He's like, either that or you could just basically wait and see what happens with your body. And I basically said, you know what? I want to wait and see what happens, because come this next coming spring, if those symptoms, those things I was encountering are still there, yes, I'm going to go to that treatment center and get tested and find out what's going on, see if there's anything that can be done. If there's little to no evidence of me getting those severe fatigue, exhaustion bouts, then that's great news. That means my body has kind of adapted and recovered. But as of right now, as of today, I think my body is kind of recovering, regaining itself, and just coming back to normal from where it was, based on what I've noticed with things I've been doing, pushing myself. So far things are looking optimistic. I'm happy with the way things are going right now in regards to that. Also too, as of today, my heart rate issue is not as frequent. So my heart rate still does rise, but it's not rising as high. It sometimes will only maybe reach close to 100, doesn't really go way over it, and it doesn't happen nearly as often. Maybe once a week, sometimes not even that often. So the heart rate thing is getting better. I'm much more in a more normal range, 70s to 80s, rather than hovering around 100 or above. And physically, I feel like I'm able to do a bit more than I was at the beginning of this year, or at least around the April-May time frame. So right here is Route 307. There is a gate here. I believe there's some handicap parking right there. And you can see the large water tank there in the distance. And here is a great view of at least this portion of the lake. This is a very large lake. You can't see it all from one area. But this spot right here, which is, I don't know what you want to call it, like a little pier, little platform, is heavily used by photographers, especially for weddings. There's been dozens upon dozens of wedding photos taken here because it's just a beautiful backdrop, especially in the summer where it's lush and green, and the fall where the leaves are all bright and vibrant. So we're going to take a walk up there in just a moment. I'll give you the view from up there. I believe the underneath is maybe a valve house or something of sorts. I think. Can't be certain of that. But right now we'll take a walk down here near the water's edge. There is this spring that's always flowing 24/7, 365. I'm not sure the reason for it, but forming some pretty significant ice formations right there. And there's actually a pipe running through here, which probably goes to over there. It's probably clean water, I would assume. And looking into the lake itself, you can't fish here, you can't swim here. It is a reservoir used for drinking water, so it's good water quality, and it's for the most part untouched. So the next thing I want to mention is my change in diet. If you do remember, I said that when I was in the hospital, my palate has changed significantly, where I started enjoying vegetables and things I've never liked before. I was eating carrots and broccoli and green beans and peas and all sorts of that stuff as hospital food, which I actually enjoyed. I'm like, wow, this is really good. I want more of it. So that was a unexpected change where I was eating foods, liking foods that I didn't normally like. The unfortunate thing is that didn't last forever. Probably around the same time frame of late winter, early spring, I somehow lost the taste for those again, where I didn't like the taste or the texture or whatever it was about some of those things, especially like carrots and peas. Not to say I won't eat them, but I won't eat them by themselves. If they're mixed in with something like say a chicken pot pie or a chicken soup, if it's mixed in there, I'll eat it. But I can't eat carrots on their own anymore. Can't eat broccoli on its own anymore. Green beans sometimes. The only thing I still like is like corn, potatoes, but there was a temporary change with my palate, with my taste buds. But on the flip side, the one thing that has been constant is ever since I was in the hospital is my portion size went down and it's stayed down. I don't eat anywhere near close to what I used to eat. I have one portion size typically, and that's it. Where in the past, and it was a running joke, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have dinner number 2, dinner number 3. I'd have, multiple plates of food. I'd eat just 1 to 2 hours later after eating. I would eat a lot. But I've been eating much less than I ever have that I can remember for the longest time. So even as of today, 1 year later, my portion size is diminished. And that's contributed to my weight loss, which is what I want to talk about next. When I was in the hospital, I got discharged, I lost roughly 24 pounds. And seeing that, it was kind of like an eye-opening thing. It's like, you know what? You have been on the heavier side, and you have been eating unhealthy, and you have been kind of tempting fate with your lifestyle of how I was eating and just not really looking after myself. Like I said, I haven't even seen a doctor for up to 10 years prior to me going to the hospital. So I knew that there was probably things that were lingering that were just waiting to come to the surface. So I ended up maintaining a more active lifestyle where I was not only eating less, I've been doing my best not to eat past 8, 9 o'clock at night. Not to say there's not exceptions. There's days you do get hungrier or you're just out later. But for the most part, I try not to eat past 9 p.m. I've also never drinking 1 can or even cup of soda in over a year. It wasn't until I was in the hospital where I lost the taste of soda. Soda is no longer something enjoyable to me, where I would drink Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke daily, with no second thoughts about it. I would just crave it. It was something I always drank when I had food. I'd only have water mixed in between. So it's been over 1 year since I've drank any type of soda at all, which has definitely helped with me losing weight. So being more physically active, I've been doing a lot more walking, hiking. You see me on the e-bikes, the scooters, and even outside of my videos, just been getting out more, taking walks like locally, stuff like that. So I've been more physically active now than I have been probably in a long time. Eating smaller portions, trying to not eat before or after 9 p.m., not drinking soda. Those contributed to me looking how I look today, where I have lost, before I had COVID, I was around 265 to 275 on average. Some months might be a little higher, some a little lower, but on average 265 to 275, and for the most part I think I carried it pretty well. I definitely, was a bigger guy. I've always been a bigger guy. Had a belly, but I was not like your typical overweight person, I guess you could say. And I say that loosely because I don't know if there is a typical, but I think I carried my weight pretty well. But now I am down today to right around 212, 210. So I have lost 60, 65 pounds roughly, I think, if the math is right. Yeah, somewhere around there. So I am 210 right now on a good day, 212 on a bad day. And that has changed my wardrobe as well. I've had to buy a lot of new clothes because when I was a heavier weight, I was wearing size 42 jeans on average. 42 to, sometimes I could squeeze into a 40, but mostly it was 42. I was wearing 2X or 3X shirts or hoodies. Where now, the jeans I'm wearing today are 36. So that's a big drop. And if I have to wear like 38s or 40s, I have to belt them. I have no choice, they won't stay up. And now 3Xs is like a nightgown on me, where even 2Xs are sometimes too big. I could get away with a 1X now, but I still do wear mostly 2X just because it's comfortable and loose fitting. So I had to do some shopping, get some new clothes, and wear clothes sizes I haven't worn since I was probably a teenager. So that's kind of strange but good at the same time. I also want to show you some before and after pictures The one picture is from Pittsburgh when I was there with Matt, September of 2021. And the angle, the photo I captured from the video itself is just eye-opening. I looked pretty big there. I couldn't believe I was that big at that time. The other one is a picture from Horseshoe Curve at my meetup event the summer of 2021, where again I was wearing a 3X shirt, had the belly on me, and now today I'm nowhere close to that. I'm actually able to tuck shirts in. I don't look like a muffin top. You know, it's just incredible, the transformation. I never anticipated this to happen, but it's one of the good things that happened from COVID is that it brought certain things to light, made me self-aware of what I was doing or not doing for care for myself. So as detrimental as it was to go through COVID and to be fighting for my life, literally, so much good has come out of it where I'm now healthier, I'm now more active, I feel better, I feel I look better. And this is the view here from on top. Somebody made a little snowman. And there's looking over the edge. Again, a great photo spot, whether you're an amateur photographer, pro photographer, or just want to come and get some portraits or wedding photos. It's right here, right off of 307. And gorgeous backdrop. Needless to say, it's hard to beat this one, at least in this area. All right, so we're gonna get off of here. We're gonna continue a little bit further down the trail here. We'll get away from the noisy traffic, get a little bit more dense wooded area, see some more beautiful snow-covered trees, and just talk about one more thing that's happened since me having COVID. Oh, check this out. Apparently someone decorated one of the pine trees. Well, how neat is that? There's even ornaments, garland. Little believe ornament there. Star. Happy holidays to all. That is pretty neat. And a blue ornament. The only thing that make it better is if there were some lights on it, but not going to ask for too much. But nice job, whoever did that. So this brings me to my next unexpected change from having COVID, and this is a very positive one. Now, as mentioned, I've always been, for the most part, pretty active, and that's contributed to me at least being, for the most part, healthy up until now. Not to say that there wasn't underlying issues like I talked about, but for the most part, you know, I never had a need to see a doctor and didn't have to go through any severe consequences because I did stay active, and that was most important for me, making videos, getting out, going on hikes, and going to different places on adventures. It just kept me moving a lot more than I probably would have on my own. But now, not only can I do those, I can do them much more easier and for a longer time. So when it comes to, I guess you could say, exercising, which is I would call walking, hiking, you know, going on adventures, it's a form of exercise. My stamina and endurance has increased significantly. Now, I was always able to do fairly well for the most part, but definitely as the day would wear on, I would start to feel it. If there were hills, you know, I would be huffing and puffing. Have to take a break either part way up or at the top for a few minutes to catch my breath, get my heart rate down. But I just figured, you know, it's just the way it is. I'm not super in shape, but at least I'm doing something. Now, it's like, it's hard to even remember how it was back then because now I'm able to do longer trips. I don't get worn out as easily. And climbing hills or inclines, I'm not getting as winded or as huffing and puffing, as I said, so much, so frequently. And if I do need to stop and take a break, it's very minimal, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. So it's just funny how that worked because when it comes to physical labor stuff, earlier this year, I hit a wall of what I was able to do. But on the flip side of things, of just getting out and doing this type of thing, walking, hiking, exploring, my limits were extended far beyond what they were. So it's great now that I could go out and do these longer trips if I have to, of walking or hiking or climbing, exploring. I could go for multiple hours if I need to, and I could do steeper inclines and get up them faster, get up with less effort required, less fatigue, less out of breath. So it's just been a pleasant and unexpected change, and that's one I've really come to appreciate because it makes life so much easier. And that also contributes to how I look today, with me being lighter, being more active, carrying less weight around. It just allows me to go on these adventures and to do these things with much less effort on my part. So being 60 pounds lighter has definitely helped. Being more active overall this past year has definitely helped. And although my lungs were affected from COVID, it's safe to say that they have healed and come full circle and even better than they were before. So endurance, stamina, longevity has definitely rose above what I've ever known to be normal before. So that is incredible, and I'm just really grateful that things worked out in that way, because it could have went the other direction where my lungs could have been severely affected and not recovered fully, and I'd not be able to do long adventures, do long things. So the one example I have is where I knew that I was able to go beyond my limits as far as exercise goes, is when I did the Google Maps video earlier this year, where I went searching for that big white object, and along the way I found the mines and the secret oasis. That adventure constituted me going multiple miles that day, probably close to 6 miles, but it wasn't like a walk like this. It was literally going up and down and up again, mountains, hills, embankments, and really pushing myself to my limits and beyond. Limits I didn't know I had, or that weren't there, if that even makes sense. Because if I did that adventure before having COVID, I don't think I would have been able to complete it. I either would have had to call it quits from sheer exhaustion, or would have had to take multiple breaks and just make the day that much longer. And although I was tired at the end of the day, I still had the energy and strength to keep going. So that just showed me, like, hey, things have changed for you, Jay. You could do more than you were capable of before. And now I embrace that. I like pushing myself a little bit more now and doing things I couldn't normally do, go further than I couldn't go before. So it's just great to see that what I went through, I got hit with snow. What I went through suffering in the hospital has some payback in the end, where I am kind of a whole new me. As you can see, we rose up above here now. Little embankment going down to the shoreline of the lake. And the trail, the pathway here is melted for the most part, snowy on the sides. Now this location of Lake Scranton, this walking trail, is busy. When I say busy, it is packed in the summers, especially on the weekends. There's people that come here training for marathons. They run laps around this place. There's walkers that come here daily. Sometimes you have a hard time even finding parking on a really busy day. So as gorgeous as it is right now, this is kind of the calm right now, because in a few months, once the temperatures warm up again, it will be rather crazy, but in a good way. It's great to see people getting out, coming here and enjoying nature, enjoying what the water company offers to the public for exercise. And on top of that, like I said, it's a great place to come take photos. And there's so many things you could do as far as photographs go any time of year, whether it's nature, wildlife, people, whatever you want. So I definitely enjoy coming here. Never done a video here, but I have been here countless times over the years to take a walk. I have made it around the lake several times, but usually I go to like one point and then just backtrack like I'm going to be doing today. And that brings me to my last point. I've touched base on this before, is my mental state of mind. when I was going through what I went through in the hospital, and even a couple months afterwards, mentally I was shook up. Rightfully so. I think anyone would if they went through what I went through, or went through something traumatic. I didn't know what the future held. Didn't know how life would be. Didn't know much of anything. Just so many questions and very little answers. So in a mental headspace, I was not very well. I was getting by, but definitely wasn't myself. But as I've explained, and I'll just share with you again, is that from going through what I went through, I have learned a lot of things, and probably number one is patience and understanding. I've always been very impatient, and I always wanted, the quick turnaround with things, and wanted to just basically, get it said and done, not wait around, whether it was in traffic, waiting for food at restaurants, waiting in a line at a store, waiting for an answer from someone about something. Patience was never in my one of my attributes. I was very impatient. I've also kind of been, up until recently, just not aware of certain things, aware of how I come across with my actions or my words. And basically what I'm getting at is that I feel like I've changed and improved significantly from who I was. I'm much more patient than I've ever been. Still times that I do get impatient, but far and few between. But I'm much more patient now, and I am more aware of my body language, my tone of voice, the words I use. I definitely think a lot more before I speak, and I try to just look at things from a different angle and not assume or insinuate or project things. I just kind of take it how it is and go from there, make a decision on the fly. So I just think that, going through something traumatic, I'm sure others could relate, that it does change you in your state of mind, that you do come out different than you were before. And hopefully it's for the good with everyone else. I just feel like it's almost hard to explain, but I feel like I'm a newer, better version of me, physically and mentally. Which I want to mention that if you would like to see me do a full dedicated video here at Lake Scranton in the warmer months, feel free to let me know one of two ways. Either say, yes, I want to see you come back and do a video here at Lake Scranton, or when you're leaving just a general comment, leave a blue heart. A blue heart will tell me that you want me to come back here in the future and do a video. Obviously, with it being 3.5 miles, I'm not going to show you all 3.5 miles, but there are things to see along the way. There's a dam spillway. There's a pump house, I believe. There's some other just gorgeous views of the lake and wildlife. So I'll be back here regardless. But if you guys want to come along too in the warmer months, let me know your feedback. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening to my long spiel here. Hopefully it helps bring you up to speed as to where things are. I don't plan on doing another update video unless something was to significantly change for the good or bad. As of right now, things are overall good, and everything is for the most part under control and looking optimistic down the road. So if you do want to see my previous video from when I did share my initial COVID story. I will link that down below. Otherwise, if you want to see more exploring adventure videos, check the playlist I dropped down below as well. So take care, everyone. Stay safe. Take care of one another. More importantly, thank you so much for being here. Again, from me to you, I greatly appreciate each and every one of you for being here, showing your support, whether it's with a like, a comment, a message, whatever it is. It truly means a lot. And I do not take this for granted one bit, especially with what's transpired after what we just talked about. I truly embrace and grateful for what I have going for me right now. So with that being said, I'll see you guys real soon in the next video.